So at this point in time, I've been playing Arknights daily for almost 5 months. And I did make a lot of glowing reviews about the quality of its events, its story, and its gameplay. But deep inside my mind, I was actually afraid that all of this good quality are just some lucky streaks. After all artists have their own best masterpiece and their worst failure. Right? Well, upon close inspection on this latest event, I can safely say that they do understand the principles on making good story and also good gameplay. But strangely enough, they can't seem to make it perfect. What the Firelight cast is the latest event in the Arknights side story. It follows Reed, who has just escaped alive under her ambitious sister and all the terrible things she had to do in the past. But now she is a drifter. She kept questioning herself if her life had any meaning or purpose, or if her sister was her only purpose. That all changed when one day she rescued 2 Irish-inspired Terran refugees from being captured by the Victorian government. The Terrans had a history of being discriminated and oppressed, leading their people to be poor and uneducated. They were trapped in a self-fulfilling cycle which made them resort to crime just to get by. Reed sympathized with these people and agreed to escort them to a safer place where they could start a new and better life. However, everything changed when Reed discovered that she was also being hunted for the crimes she had committed in the past, which could endanger the refugees she sought to protect. It is a story about redemption and self-discovery. Will Reed be able to find her resolve and embrace her destiny to lead these people? Or will she be doomed to live under her sister's shadow forever? Unlike Ilse Recusano, What the Firelight cast focused on a more grounded story, centered on Reed and a smaller cast of characters. In its 4-hour runtime, you can definitely feel Reed's character progression as she grows to become more confident and determined. Reed also has many layers to herself and a dark past she is trying to run from. The story doesn't hold back to show all her thoughts and feelings in various flashbacks, haunting her and harming the people around her. You can truly sympathize with her and root for her to get it together. The side characters are also well developed. Each one of them has their own goals and purpose in the story. We got an amusing double agent, NPCs with complete personalities, and lovable side characters. All of them interacted in an amusing dynamic that never feels stale. Then there is also the world building about the Terrans. I think their stories are loosely based on the discrimination of Irish people in England, how amidst all of these hardships, they strive to preserve their culture and history. And I especially love the soft magic system between Reed and her sister, how Iblana can use her fire to create actual zombies, and the complementary color of life and death. Of course, all of this world building matters personally to Reed and her character progression. One of the things that really impressed me about the story is the writer's mastery in writing setups and payoffs. Every scene is written with a purpose, and the payoffs can hurt you a lot, even though you see it coming a mile away. Then there is also the clear mastery of the medium. As I said before, and I'm going to keep saying this again, visual novels are not the correct medium for elaborate fight scenes. And the writer knows this very well. So every fight at its core is always about verbal arguments, trying to change other people's minds, or just happens in the background. It's always about the character, not the action. Of course, it's not exactly a perfect story. The pacing is rather slow in the first hour, overloaded by a lot of particular NPC's background story that hardly matters later on. Then, just like in Ilse Recusano, the resolution doesn't feel that satisfying. In the climax, for example, it felt like the writer just confronted Reed with an exam out of nowhere, and she just made one giant leap. I find it hard to track where she learned how to solve the final question in her arc. The ending also feels like a cliffhanger that Reed doesn't seem to care to resolve anytime soon. I really hope that her story doesn't just end there and continue on the main story later. But the most outrageous mistake is that there are so many moments where the story seems to act smarter than it's supposed to be. Sometimes the writer intentionally chose not to explain what happened and leave it ambiguous where it doesn't need to. It is already hard to follow what just happened in visual novels where actions are not shown, but told. It's definitely a lot harder when you intentionally make important actions fake. For example, I just don't know what Reed is doing at the end of the story until I read the interpretation in the wiki. And even then, I kind of disagree and also question where they get this information and be so sure about it. I assume that they know this information from like the future because the global version of Arknights is like several months behind the Chinese version, but that feels like kinda cheating in my opinion. But again, this complaint feels like a nitpick in what overall is an excellent writing quality, and I did enjoy the story for what it is. Now, as for the gameplay, we have 3 new mechanics introduced in this event. Mire tiles slow down movement speed and attack speed of all enemies and operators in it. Flame Chaser is the new enemy type, which upon death will turn into Ember that needs to be hit several times within 10 seconds or they respawn with full health. So it's quite similar to Shangshu Trails, but the catch is, the Ember is invisible. So if you have no operators blocking it or any detection ability, your snipers can do nothing. Plus, all of them have 50% arts damage resistance, so your caster are also having a bad time. Then there are Reeds. No, not the operator, although I kinda appreciate the thematic link. These tall grasses give camouflage to the operator standing in it so they won't get attacked, which is not new. It is actually in the early stages of the main theme. But in the later half of the event, these reeds can burn, and if you do nothing, it can spread to the 4 tiles around it every 15 seconds. Any operator standing in it gets burn damage every second and is no longer hidden from the enemy. Fortunately, you can put your operator on the burning reeds to stop the fire before it spreads. And of course, there are also Dublin arsonists from County Hillock joining in with the ability to burn the reeds. Fun! But design-wise, I think these are very solid mechanics. There are many ways for you to take advantage of it. Unlike Il's Rakusano, the mechanics apply to you and the enemies alike. The level is also designed with many threats that you need to answer immediately. The fire is the obvious example. You need to deal with that fire immediately or the entire level will be burning. The new enemy type is also a big threat. As I said, if you manage to kill them with your sniper from range, then you better plop down someone to block them so they can be shot before they respawn. Unfortunately, the solution for these 2 threats are cheaply available. Gravel. She is the true MVP in this event. You can just plop her down on burning tiles and remove her when the fire is out. Her attacks are fast and deal 2 hits every attack. So just plop them down next to the embers and she quickly destroyed them. But the other enemies are also threats that immediately demand your attention. Like this Flamecaller Captain, which will ignite the reeds if you don't kill them in the right place. Or this Heavy Swamp Rover, which will reveal your operators hiding in reeds. Or this Brigadier, who burns every reed he passes through. But you know what's not fun? The boss! So remember that you're trying to do your best to deal with burning reeds all this time? Well, once you enter phase 2, she just burns everything. Oh, and those flame chasers? Yeah, they take half damage if they are near burning reeds. And now it's everywhere! Oh, but it doesn't stop there. The boss' other abilities are also pure bullcrap. Every 70 seconds, she can just sacrifice her flame chasers to get 85,000 health shields, which you cannot see how many left because the UI doesn't show it. And remember, the flame chasers don't actually die because they just turn to embers, right? And to complete the combo, the boss decides to take inspiration from Dagon Brasher in Break the Ice to disable 2 of your operators with the added effects of dealing explosive damage when the disable expires, which shouldn't target your operators if they're hiding in reeds. But remember that she sets all of them on fire? Yeah, fun. But honestly, it's not that bad. Sure, the boss burns the entire reeds in the level, but notice that these reeds exist in a clump. Burning reeds from this side can jump to this side, right? So they're mostly safe. Sure, the boss keeps regenerating her shield, but unlike the Blood Knight in Firelight, the enemies don't spawn infinitely. So just stall the boss until all the other enemies are killed. And notice that there is a small mire tile on the center of the map that the boss went through. The boss is affected by the slow as well. And with those facts, I managed to beat the final boss mostly on my own for the first time. And this time, I managed to get to Act 7. That's exciting for a 5-month-old doctor, right? So maybe this is the first boss I've beaten in a limited time event that I genuinely enjoy. But maybe it's just a combination of having the right lineup and enough experience to beat it. Another good thing that I noticed is that there is this little spot here that makes it possible for you to block the enemies using your operator, but still letting the boss pass through to the exit without having to pull out your operators. Just in case you want to clear the level without dealing with the boss second phase. Very useful if you're just rushing to go to the X stages for some more Arknights. I also noticed that for the first time ever, the boss level only requires 10 sanity, which helps players who want to do some grinding. The bad news is that this stamina discount is not applied on the next event after this one. So, in conclusion, great story, great gameplay, but not perfect. But it's fine, because it's already ranking higher than Il's Recusano in my book. And it's not an exception on the Hypergrave's already high standards for their contents. And that's why What the Firelight Cast is the best Arknights event I had so far.